You with stuff like what you're doing here with this kid, and I mean all of your antics, kicking all the kids out of the pool, you were getting an awful lot of heat. And now I know that you and I talked about you having flash cash that you would kind of prove to people that you were, in fact, $1 million man. But I'm wondering, with all the heat that you were getting, did you ever have to defend yourself against any angry fans?
Uh, I didn't. It never got that. It never got to that point. Um, I can. Yeah, I don't know. I can remember one time after a show, and I can't even remember where it was. And we would, especially if you were staying over, and you go back to the hotel, and the hotel has a lounge, and go have a couple of beers and talk to the guys and get something to eat, and and I think somebody smarted off about something, or I think it was more about you guys are all a bunch of phonies, and if you wanna make me mad, that's all you need to say. And I grabbed this guy by his shirt, and I lifted him off the ground, and had him against the wall, with his feet like a foot off the ground, and I said, "Does this feel fake? And do you want to feel any more?" And he shook his head, no, and I let him go. So anyway, but other than that, no, not really. I mean, like most of the fans, they knew that it was, I mean, basically Vince announced to the world that we were sports entertainment, so they knew it wasn't real.
Right. Well,
So that was cool.
and I mean, and for context for our listeners, I mean, those were the days when, like, you had just come from Bill Watts's territory where there was
Yeah,
like an edict that was put out that, like, hey, if you get into a bar fight and you lose, you're out, you're fired.
yeah,
So like, you had just come from that territory, so it's like that's a defend yourself, defend the business type territory. So totally
yeah,
understandable that you kind of jack this guy up. And by the
yeah,
way, Jim Duggan has told me some wild stories about getting into bar brawls alongside like Dr. Death and Hercules Hernandez, and man, just
yeah.
it was the Wild West back in the day, was it not?
It was. Oh, it was. And I was with Jim on one of those occasions, and it was actually here. I live in the Jackson, Mississippi area, and I think it was in Jackson somewhere, and I can't remember how, but he said that I get in a fight with this guy, and of course, Jim wears big thick glasses because he got that issue with his eyes, and I think his glasses wore up, and he says, like he couldn't find the guy. The guy, he said the guy bit my finger, and the way Jim did it was he was kind of like he went like, "Oh, there you are. Now I know where you are," and punched him, and then two punches, and the guy was down. So.
So, man, Jim Duggan, nothing to
Oh,
mess with,
no,
even to this
yeah, yeah,
day.
yeah. You gotta really be out of your mind to want to mess with somebody like Duggan.
My
And
God.
then Jim was legit, man. I mean, he played college football. I think he played a little pro for a while, like maybe a
Yep.
year or two, and then he came to wrestling. But he was always a legit. Thank goodness Jim Duggan is a nice guy.
That's what I was gonna say too,
Yeah,
is
because if of course like guys his size and that strong that aren't nice guys. A lot of them either end up in jail or dead.
yeah, or like will bully people. And that's what I was gonna say is like, that's the other part of this is if you're pissing off Jim Duggan to the point where he's gonna fight you, you're doing something wrong because he is the nicest
Yeah,
person around.
yeah.